Now, in the meantime, during my stay at Tulane, I came to know a wonderful young lady, Margaret Ann Turfitt, because of an accident almost. It happened that I chose to go to the St. Charles Avenue Presbyterian Church, which was the church that she and her family had been to for many decades. There was an event for college students one afternoon. I think it was on a Saturday afternoon. And Margaret Ann had a date with a fellow that she had dated intermittently for some years. And this was when I was a senior and she was still in high school. No, I'm sorry. No, I met Margaret Ann when I was a junior in college, and she was then just starting Newcomb as a freshman. So, and that it happened at this event that her date had to abandon her for something the family needed to do. So the pairs of students, young men and young women, were chosen at random by numbers, and you found the lady who had a corresponding number. And so it was that I met Margaret Ann that afternoon. And ultimately it proved to be providential because as I came back from my senior cruise, I asked Margaret Ann to marry me, which would not occur for another year or so. So she considered that and told me that she would give an answer sometime in the future. So it was that we enjoyed good relationships. We had many dates that were a lot of fun. Of course, she accuses me of abandoning her at the Kappa Sigma house, one of our first dates, when all of a sudden I just kind of disappeared and started sort of chatting with my Kappa Sigma brothers. And there she had been rescued by one of my brothers, who ultimately wound up to be a judge in northern Louisiana. Now I don't mean to mix these dates up because they're coming to me at random as I speak. So when I finally left for my Navy duty, it was signed and sealed after I talked with her father, Myron Turfitt, that Margaret Ann would become Mrs. Edward Lindsey at some time in the future. Now it came to pass that, as I said before, we returned to San Diego in the spring of 1953. By that time, Margaret Ann and I had determined that if I got back to the States in time, we could be married in October of 1953. It was not clear to me why that time was chosen, but she did get to finish Newcomb in the spring of 1953. We were married in October 20th, 1953, and it was a wonderful affair with good friends. And you might guess that my best man was Lancer Bevel from McAllen, Texas. At that time, since I was still in the Navy, we drove all the way to the West Coast on our honeymoon. Let me say that while we were in Millington, we became very active, particularly as advisors, if you will, to the young people, the high school group of Idlewild Presbyterian Church, a very large, active church there, and had great times with them. And then ultimately in 1955, I was released from the Navy with good grades and without prejudice. And then we returned to New Orleans. It happened that Myron Turfitt had arranged for a house to be built in Old Metairie, about half a block off of Metairie Road on East William David. And there was our wonderful home for a number of years. And while we were living there, our two children were born. First came Anne, whose name is properly Anne Stormont Lindsey, and later Myron Turfitt Lindsey, who is called Dean. Margaret Ann just suffered through 3 years of medical school with me and later through about 7 years of surgical training. She was a real angel, and I don't think many marriages could withstand some of the stresses that are imminent in such problems. I know you want to stop? I know a number of my classmates suffered divorces during their course in medical school and residency. Margaret Ann and I have had a wonderful marriage. I have called her a steel magnolia at times, particularly in this spring of 2014. She has endured my several illnesses and has remained strong and has persevered all these months.